showing you I'm up in here before the sun comes up, keeping it from beating on me and baking my brain. So I'm up in here at daylight digging for an hour or so every now and then, and we're working a hole near a charcoal spot, a fire spot that I found. I was finding Pontchartrains, Poverty Point, transitional period artifacts right here. And I was going to show you in my sifter what I've been getting, a handful of flakes, flakage and debitage they call it, out of the sifter nearly every dig, every few shovelfuls. That's just more signs of life to show you what to look for if you ever get off into digging. I'm also going to show you the ancient creek bed again, right here behind where I'm digging. It's deeper. I'm going to give you a shot of it if I can get through this poison ivy. So here we'll turn you around. It's kind of dark in here, but the camera should take the light. But if you can look back across here past that beech tree over there, how deep it is. This is a major ancient channel where the creek used to flow. And up on the edge you can see how I'm down in this channel. And it was, this channel was, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet deeper. You can see where the sand is piled up here. This was from 2016. Our water came through here bigger than we've ever seen it and filled this in. This was probably 6 feet deeper than 5 years ago it was, before the flood. Over here, I have dug into here vertical to get under, down deeper from where I dig, mostly up in this area, this height. But down in here, I found pottery in here also. So it's a flooded spot that's been flooded for centuries, which the ancient creek goes right back around and connects where I was showing you before in an earlier video. It goes back around and hooks up with that horseshoe's back. That's where I was showing you before. Alright, back up to the dig. I'll show you some debitage. Alright, chip pile's getting bigger, as you can see. Got a blade core here, which is unusual, a big rock they've been flipping these blades off of, which is just cool. I hear a blue heron. There's a bunch of chips. This is what comes out if you compare to other videos. I'm getting into charcoal too now. You find jars and cans full of debitage. This stuff is everywhere from these people. There was just a lot of people sitting here doing a lot of stuff. Now I'm coming around my wall over here. I cave in a lot of dirt, I scratch it down, then I'm going to clean that out to start the dig. This time it's kind of my routine, getting down in there and digging a pretty good bit of cubic footage. When I get toward the end of my digging session, I'll scrape the sides, see if I can find a late point, a late find in my, if I've been out here digging for an hour or two. And then when I come back, I'll clean up what I scraped down the last time first. That's what I'll get to first. The first thing I'm going to do is dig this pillar of dirt out and see if there's something hiding in there. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to try to keep it I'm going to try to find something off in this bunch of dirt right here and continue on out into there. I got pottery out of this spot over here before, so I may go ahead and cut into that, but that'll be another visit. Stay tuned. More sifting and more chasing flakes. Now I got a second site I'm calling Site B. I started this one 5-6 years ago just to get in the shade. It's too hot to be out in the field, and 10 minutes is all you can stand. And here it is, 9 o'clock, 9:30. You can't be out there right now, so you got to go to the shady spots. I got Site C over there, Site D, the modern creek. We follow the line of the ancient creek and poke around and find places where they used to live. Some yield and some don't. Stay tuned. So you find a place that you think people used to live thousands of years ago, and you dig, and you find a few things along the way. Nice flakage, but here's one basket for sure I want to show you. Dig, you get leaves and you get roots, and then you're coming through here and there's not much showing up in it, and the next thing you know you get one flake. That right there is evidence, that one little pressure flake, that people lived here. So if you're digging and digging and digging, and of course you're not going to find arrowheads and pottery every single time, but that one little flake right there is an artifact, and it's been down in the ground just as long as an arrowhead, a couple thousand years or more. So you have to count that as evidence that you're in a spot that you need to keep digging. I may only find one flake, but that's the evidence you want right there if you go to digging in a spot and wonder if it's fruitful or not. So keep that in mind. That's artifact, whatever number it is, 5 million. I don't count them and I don't mark them. But there you go. That's a pretty good insight when you're looking into a site, wondering if it's any good. Now, these other flakes here I have found in these 3 different holes. That's pottery, which is abundant on this property. Studying that takes a little more than just looking. Different tempers on it. But big flakage like this, that's definitely a nice flake. So the evidence is here, and I already knew this is a fruitful spot. I'll just show you if you ever get into a spot and don't know, for just starting out looking. But you'll dig deep and turn a lot of dirt and looking for evidence, and that's it. Flakage. We're just talking about finding evidence of life. There's charcoal, if you can see it. There's charcoal right there in the edge of that. If you look right up in there, if I'm pointing at it right. You see the black charcoal marks. Well, going into there on top of that, and first thing I saw before the sifter this time was a piece of telltale pottery. Here it is right there. There's no better evidence than that right there, that someone lived here. Someone made that bowl, cooked in it and ate out of it. It's charcoal on the inside. I'll let it dry out. You can see how it's black on the inside from being used. That's pretty cool. Stuff's, yeah, a couple thousand years old. I will try to put it together with another pot and see if it's a missing piece. Had people asking about how do you know if a person lived or people lived in a certain place or a certain site. We were talking about chips, and I showed a chip pile down at the hole. These are chips here that I've got out over the last I don't know, 17 years. This is what you get when you're finding evidence. So if you're going down and digging in a place and looking around, rooting around, probing around, you'll find rock evidence. These people brought this stuff in here. This is not, these are pebbles, I say pebbles, these are rocks from the creek, which is in this area called citronelle gravel, citronelle chert. Up north it changes. You have to look up the geology on different areas, but you can find where these rocks have been heat treated and busted down. I have buried a big cache of rocks down there, probably a couple hundred, that I found, and I decided to leave. I left some stuff down there for good reason, I guess, but I took a lot out. These small stones, everything here, especially if you find chips and rocks like these. Now, these blades, I'm going to show you something interesting. When you find a blade core that has pieces knocked off of it like this, similar, the color's messed up, it's got a little rust on it, but these pieces come off. There's not many of these that I have, maybe 3, but these are knives for sure. These are core blades, and they're very sharp. If you go in without gloves and digging around, you'll cut your finger wide open on these. These are for skinning. That's definitely a intentional tool. These aren't just flakes off of an arrowhead rock. These were chipped off of a big rock, a blade core, and these edges are sharp as razor blades. You could skin an animal with these right now. Other evidence, nut stones. These are good nut stones. A good example of one right here with a cut mark in the middle. And I'm gonna get it in some better light and maybe show you. If you can, I'll move it around so you can see the detail. There's cross cut marks and there's holes in it where they used to crush hickory nuts on both sides of this one. This is some of that, I call it iron rock. This is probably sandstone. This is native to this area. But then they used to, the holes, if you had a hickory nut, you could sit in this hole, and it's a perfect spot, an anvil, where they used to crush nuts and make, you know, to eat. Whether they made bread or not, I don't know what they made. But some people say they used to make acorn bread, but that's just guessing. But the chip pile that's down there now consists of flakes and big and small. That's evidence people used to live there. So when you find a flake, like I said in the video that I'm going to put out, that one flake is evidence right there to keep digging. Alright, go over to this. This is Site B that I was explaining too, some work rocks. Here's a rubbing stone here that has obviously been used for rubbing. This is a hammerstone. It's got peck marks on the end of it. That's the first sign that I found before I started finding a few flakes in that same hole. So I know that's a good spot. And then you come over here to this rub stone. This is an awesome one here. One of the first things I ever found. And think about how many years it took to rub this surface, the cortex down to look like this. That's a lot of rubbing, and that's one of my favorite pieces right there. It fits your hand perfect. You can, you know, where they used to put their hands. So this piece here, they've used this probably 2,000 years ago, and it fits my hand just like it would have fit someone else's to rub something. And awesome piece. On to pottery. I'll see if I can get you an idea of some pottery. Now, we can see it. There we are. Alright. These pieces. This is a rim. Probably need to back off and focus better. And if you can see it, I don't have my light to shine on it. I should have brought it, but I'm not prepared. This is pinched pottery. If you look at it close, you can see where someone took their fingers. We're talking about motif and designs and elements and things like that. This is where someone may have taken their something, maybe not their fingers or fingernails, and pinched these little marks in it with their fingers. So people, this is probably a Marksville piece. This is probably back in there about BC 1, 2 to 400, something like that, a broad range, 40 centuries worth. But that was the middle woodland time when Marksville pottery was supposed to be in the chronological position, as the pros say. So it's not pinned down exactly when you spread something out over a 40 century time frame. It's kind of broad. But this one has holes in it, and you can see here there was another hole here. But the reason being, sometimes they would get a crack in it, and they would put a hole here and here, and they would they would tie it together to close the crack and repair it. Not that it was just a double handle hole, but that's a good example of what they used to use drills for. They used to take a drill and drill these. People want to know that too, and a lot of people don't know. They're just gonna, since I have the pieces here, I can describe that because I have the exact pieces that they would have used to do such a thing, like drill a hole in pottery. See, this hole was unfinished. This is a cool piece of pottery. The hole never did get finished all the way through. So they would take this little, and this is a Collins drill, a fine Collins drill I found, just so you can see it. An awesome piece. This is a Mississippian piece. It's a real, used to be an arrowhead. That's a real from a different time, I'm going to say 1,000 years ago. But they used to take these, they turned this one into a drill, and they used to take these, and that's what they did. They would sit there, just a cool example right there. They take this drill, and they drill these holes in here. This piece of pottery is probably older. If you took the piece of pottery and the drill, you could probably put 5 centuries between them. I think the pottery's older than the drill for sure. I just think they were drilling leather, but they were also drilling holes in pots, like these here. That's a good example. That's a good rim coming out of the place that I dig. Let me go over here. I've got to be careful, I don't want to drop it. This is some I showed already. It's got good designs on it, and this design is called rouletting. This is where they would take a piece, some kind of tool, and they would rock it back and forth vertically in a field. They would make 2 lines, and then they'd fill in the field. It's a zigzag effect that goes around the rim of this piece. And if you see it proper, it's been cooked in a lot. The inside is charcoaled, very well tempered piece, and fragile, especially if you do think you're going to just drop that sucker. Here's a big piece off of that pot too that probably came off the bottom. I found these all in one find. That's going toward the bottom of the bowl. You can see the contour and the shape of it as it goes down toward the bottom. I'll show you that. I've probably got 20 different bowls being reconstructed. There's just, every time you find it, you think it goes to a certain bowl, but the rim tells the story on it. The rim's a certain shape on this one. I got pieces all over the place probably from that. but when they have marks on them, you know they, or you kind of think and get an idea they go together. But sometimes they do not. These pieces, I'm assuming, go to the same bowl. They have Marksville. This is classic Marksville time period. Let me get my camera to open up so I can see this right here. Put it up. You can see the lines in it in the designs, which it's hard to say. I'll show you pictures to describe what I got or what I'm thinking. It's stained, but you can kind of see it's like a long. It's got legs on it. They used to put these effigy-looking animal effigies like lizards and snakes. I got a piece over there with a snake head on it. I'll show you the picture of that. But here's some more elements. A lot of stuff to study. If you don't have books on it, you have to really look it up and understand what I'm talking about. But this is a plate full of Marksville. This is old, pretty cool. There's another piece of pottery with a hole in it right there. Same thing. Older than the drill. These pieces here, here's more Marksville, if you can see through the glass with the pattern. This stuff is old, I'd have to look it up. From the Crooks Mound, there was wider grooves in this Marksville. It's called Marksville Crooks site. I gotta look it up. Anyway, this is more of a Decentville complex. This is where the rouletting is opposite, like I was telling you. This is a Coles Creek period, 1,000 to 1,200 years ago. Not as old as Marksville. Here's a piece with another hole in it. I get my camera to come awake again, and you can see a lot of neat stuff. That's what I was talking about, the designs and elements. These are rouletted. You can see the rouletting in them things where they zigzagged a piece, they some kind of piece of wood and made this mark. There's others that are cord and fabric marked, which is like this right here. This is a good example. This is Pontchartrain check stamped. These pieces here, if you can see through the glass, this is where they laid a piece of, or say they were sitting on a piece of mat made out of something. They would lay the pottery on it and just roll it, and then it overlaps and gets these marks. This is called Deptford in the Carolinas, a different place. I got it zipped up so I can't open it. But anyway, there's some more. I said I got pottery through all different phases. This looks like cord mark, but it's not. If you look at each and every little design, it's like a little point poked these lines in there with a stick. These little things in this crooks. It's almost like a triangle pointed stick they poked it with, and they incised this pottery while it was wet. The newer stuff, the Cadwin and the Natchez type of potteries, back to the 1500s, 1400s, those type of things, they more engraved things more than they incised them while they were wet. So they scraped them, and then they actually put paint and stuff on them too. Here's a good piece right there with an example of punctuation, they call that. Punctuated, where they took a piece and they poked it into the mud when it was wet.